The history of the earth has always came through the womb of the women. We can argue everything we want to, but we can't disprove that. So they try to tell us that God is a man, and everybody that come into this physical realm got to come through a uterus. They tell us that they made man and made woman from his rib. But where was the baby gestating at during that time it was growing? What womb was it in? Because you can't get here. It's proven. You can't get here in the physical form as a child of the earth, the stars, and the moon, and the sun if you don't come through the portal of life.
Okay.
It's the only entrance into this realm. So everybody can come up with every excuse for the masculine supremacy. And I'm going to keep telling them the God man, the most masculine one, is the one that's going to tell you that God is the woman. Because he wants you to know the truth, not because he wants to humiliate you. Because once you understand the truth, and then you can see where the shift took place, you can help us put the new world back in order. That's all we here for. I'll be back in another 26,000 years to do this shit again and be mad as hell that they had to call me from my rest. That's all of the tribes tell you, that before we do that, we have to go consult with the clan mother. They all said that. It's documented. It's not it's no fantasy shit. This is documented by the motherfuckers that invaded us. So they told us to sell land. All the chiefs tell them the same thing. That's absurd. We can't sell you no land. Because only the clan mothers can own it. So they tried to trick us with paperwork. That's where the problem came in, because they conditioned us using uniforms and uniform commercial code as the application of law. But it was the admiralty jurisdiction in the override of the law of the land, which is the great law. So the women say, no more was this admiralty shit. We only following the great law now. It's already in the public domain by one of the clan mothers in Canada talking to the Pope. It's not a secret. Right? And that's how we gave public notice to all of the clans, because all of the clans is involved. Even the ones that think that we ain't talking up for them, we talking up for them too. They just don't know it yet. Because one thing about it, we fight amongst each other, but I promise you this, we'll burn this bitch down, get us pissed.
Okay.
Right? So we can fight amongst each other, but right now we getting the imposters out the way first, and then we can fight in a more civil manner. Right? But if you don't know civics, you don't know how to be civil. And if you want to be the master of your own destiny, you have to live the applied civics. Civics is taking you back to the law of the land. Right? And when you get back to the law of the land, you stuck under the law of the matriarchs. Mm-hmm. And it's been said 1,000 times over, there will be no balance until the great mother is did what? Put back on her throne.
Back on her throne.
So, that's the order of the day. Put her back on her throne. We the clans organic to the land who've been invaded by people that look like us, that's not us, that's trying to disassociate us from the land in order to capture the land holdings from the mothers. I'm the cleanup man. I'm the baby boy that come at the end of all of the rest of them that couldn't figure it out and tell them what they missed. It was all part of a protracted struggle of 500 years war. It's supposed to have been over in 1992. Right? So we go back to what happened in 1992. Rodney King got beat by the police. Mm-hmm. So King Rodney was put in their custody. Simultaneously, two things is transpiring on two different parts of the land. They see the Rodney King beaten, but they don't see King Rodney being wrapped up by the police and put in the car. Two things playing out on the land at the same time in the public domain, but do the tribes remember their culture? Because if you don't remember your culture, you will never know that the elders is talking to you and the ancestors is using what they have in front of you to reveal what they doing behind you. Right? So while the ancestors is forcing the hand of those who's trying to oppress us, they reveal in their dirt, because everything they do has to be put in the public domain so we can show the people in some form or another. Normally they put it in the forms of art and entertainment because we don't take it serious.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they tell the story. And then they tell them so much symbolism that you have to know hieroglyphics so you can read what's being said. Because they talk in the images of animals and automobiles. Right? So we get Fast and Furious right before the Transformers convert into the gorillas. It's a cannonball run, a scavenger hunt, race across the land, chasing the drag queen that's trying to impersonate the queen.
Mm.
The Statue of Liberty. Right? Where the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was signed in Paris. Where we got the Statue of Liberty from. A drag queen. Right? And what did they erect at the same time in Paris? The Eiffel Tower. The same designer. I fell to a drag queen on the land. And they call her Martha Washington. And that's how you chop down the cherry tree. You replace it with testicles.
Facts.
So now there's no true air coming from the leadership arena because the leadership is artificial and it's a drag race across the land. So they strike out on the Louisiana expedition in order to map out the Louisiana territory to get the drag queen from the East Coast to the West. So now the Chiefs got to follow and backtrack in order to chase the drag queen on the cannonball run to pick up all of the pieces to the puzzle that put it all back together. So they said that when they did the Lewis and Clark expedition, that all of our castles was empty. Why are our castles empty? Because we don't send our sons to war if we ain't going with them. I don't care if I'm 90 years old. My son's going to war. I'm going to be one of the shooters.
Okay.
And that's the reason why the Chiefs wore the war bonnets, to make them visible to the rest of the clan and show them the direction that he going. We didn't wear that shit on a day-to-day basis. They act like we just walked around in that shit like that was our everyday dress code. That was for ceremonial purposes. And if we go into war, the tribes need to see us at a distance. So we wore the war bonnet. They know where the chief at. Whatever happened, they ain't gonna let the chief fall, even though he the first in the march. So then they told us we lived in teepees. We didn't live in no goddamn teepees. That was camp settlements on our way to the Gullah Wars. But we don't know our culture, so we can't read that shit. So Elijah Muhammad say, accept your own and be yourself. Noble Drew Ali say, you are what your ancestors were without a doubt or contradiction. Put your hands and knees and motherfucking forehead on the ground and ask Mother Earth where you belong. There won't be no mistake whether you from this side of the water or not. We the only ones talk to Mother Earth like that. They simulated in Islam with what they call as-salat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they don't know what we was doing when we got down in that position. They didn't know we was consulting with the greatest oracle of them all, Mother Earth herself, because she'll give you the whole history of the earth if you mentally strong enough to accept it. They call that reading the Akashic records. Because her daughter Akasha was the bookkeeper of all time. Until they pissed off her sister, she came out raging about her babies and they called her Kalima. And Sekhmet. But when you put it all together, then you can reach the infinite potential that we was all meant to reach. But they keep tricking us with the BS. Yeah.
I agree.
And that's a critical part of shadow work too. That's part of knowledge of self. tapping into the ancestral realm. It's tapping back into your DNA reservoir. All of the ancestors are present in you. If you listen, you can hear them, and you can hear them arguing with each other when the dirty one's trying to put you up to do some bullshit. But we ain't tuned in like that no more. We've been too busy trying to catch the Holy Ghost in the church, where we put ourselves under the Amen spell of the unknown gods, telling the gods to remain unknown. So we could never get our shit back, because the God that's known is the I-10, high noon, solar disk. Can't miss it. Right there, dead center of the sky. But the moon comes out with the moon. At night, in the dark, behind the scenes, where you can't recognize the God. And that's why they say, let your light shine into the world. Be the I-10 and not the I-moon.
Okay.
Don't hide in the shadows. Come out in the light. Or be the light that you bring. And let the light rest on the truth. And stand in the position of right. The rightful heirs.
Well,
we're not Africans. We sprung up all over the world as with the dark mother in the beginning. It was all females, and they all was melanated. But they also carry a spectrum within their genome. And so the 12 daughters of Isis is representative of the 12 signs of the zodiac that sit around the Tawaret seat in the center. On Earth, it's the 12 daughters of Isis, which made up the 12 distinctly different genotypes that became phenotypes on the planet, or 12 nations. This is why they be talking that Israel shit, but it don't got nothing to do with the Bible, because the Bible is made the same way you make a core out the virus, and then you use the shell to build the immune system. They trying to make us accept part of a shell of our historical record as the whole and the entirety of the truth, when it's only a shell of what we used to do thousands of years ago. But the genetic memory make us believe it, because the part of the story they tell, we already know. Jesus is Isis, and her son is Emmanuel. We called him in ancient Kemet Heru. And the hero, as really not who he is, that's the position he holds as the heir to the throne, being the fruit of his mother's loin. He's a mama's boy. This is where masonry sprang from. Now, the only thing is, mama gonna pick somebody to counterbalance him based on her star chart. What's her birthday? And then she gonna time together in the heart chakra. That's called passing off your mitochondrial host. Right? This is what arranged marriages used to be. People think they still choosing their wife all the time. It's an arranged marriage through the energy, because when you do it in the spiritual, it manifests in the physical. And mama already picked who she gonna pair you with, and you ain't got no control over it, but you think you do.
The creed.
And every time you try to talk to the one that she told you you can't have, you don't get no play. And the higher your spiritual rank, the harder it is to play that game. That's an educational construct that's used to disassociate us from the land.
Okay, but do you believe that they could have brought some slaves over here? Like
they brought slaves, but they wasn't from Africa.
They was already on these lands.
No, they brought slaves with them. We knew, because we know the wars they fought. They fought Mongolians, Huns, and Vedics. They tell you that they brought the slaves when they came, but they didn't bring no slave ships from Africa. The slave ships came from Europe.
That's different. That's now.
It's in the history books. It's not even debated. When the settlers came, they brought servants with them.
Okay. When
the servants didn't look like us. Right. The servants didn't look like us. when they was bringing them over here, they had to create Indian schools so they can teach them how to replace us. This ain't no secret. Pull up the pictures of Indian schools and it'll show you little Asian people that they saying is Indian. And they're using the Indian schools to teach them how to be Indians. They imitating us. This is what the switch out happened on the so-called Trail of Tears. That's when they marched all of us back into the South as the old Mississippian tribe root clans. They didn't want to carry them to the Reds, but some of them still got there. Somebody had to teach them people the culture to keep up certain rituals in order to maintain a certain level of balance while we was in the conflict. Right? I was telling the sister earlier, it's a video of Mama Mashpee Mama Bear. And in the video, she said, y'all stop being so hateful toward the black people, because if it wasn't for them, we would have all got wiped out. They did the slave thing to save all of us. But what are they talking about? They talking about the George Washington Challenge, which was the conjure wars that we were fighting. And the only way out is to educate yourself till you the highest educated out of all of them on both sides. Right? So I was studying and reading books and trying to do self-development. I wasn't trying to get in no position to be teaching nobody anything. I was just trying to self-improve. But the sheer level of information that I was able to consume over a period of time made me qualified to fulfill a certain function as one of the chiefs on the land. But I can't take the test to be the chief until I turn 50. Women's take the test at 40. Right? So when I get ready to turn 50, all hell break loose on me. So now, 5 years later, all heaven about to break loose. I call that a turnaround if I ever seen one. 12 daughters of Isis. All different skin colors and hair textures. The 12 daughters of Isis are the matriarchs of the 12 lands of the earth. The Isis seat is in the Grand Canyon. The simulation of the Isis seat is the house of Pharaoh in Kemet. But the real power seat is in the Grand Canyon, the original temple of Isis. So when I talk about putting the women back in their rightful place, I'm talking about restoring the matriarchal structures of the 12 daughters of Isis and Isis herself, the Great Mother, which is only a title. When you say Isis, people think you're talking about a specific person, but many people have held the Isis seat. And this is why you have so many people reincarnated saying, I'm Isis, and think they remember holding the seat. They probably not lying. But we call that the Sybil effect, because they all in a hive mind group. And they can only be in the hive mind group by going through a process of weeding out the parasites from the true supporters of the sisterhood. And they use me for a crash dummy to weed out some of those frauds. So using me as a crash dummy, I don't give a damn. I'm a whole gorilla. I can take it. And I can defend myself too, because I'm a Scorpio and I will sting that ass. So when I talk about restoring the Great Mother, that's restoring the proper heir to their proper position in order for the proper structure to be restored so that we can have balance. That's all it's about, is restoring the balance in humanity to match the balance in nature. They call it voodoo, and that's why they didn't want us to practice it. Because it teaches you to identify your ancestral links wherever you're from on Earth. And then you get to study all of the priesthood. So when I talk about the women being restored to their proper place, I'm just talking about put the structure back in place that belong on Earth for Earth to run the way Earth is supposed to run, and we have heaven on earth at that time. Or regions, you would probably call it regions. Nation is a term used in the English language to impose admiralty. So there's Eurasia was broke up into 4 sections. What we call the motherland was broke up into 4 sections, and the Americas was broke up into 4 sections. Each section had a matriarch that governed over that area, and it's really to allocate the resources equitably across the land to make sure everybody have food, clothing, shelter. And those sections had their matriarchs, and then they all had one they elect to sit as the big mama. This is going to automatically happen by nature. And the women who are partakers of it, as the energies from the sun continue to shoot these flares down here, they're going to start becoming aware of their rank and position in the area that they can manage resources for. Because when we talk about the royal families of the earth, our job is to take care of the people. That's why they call us shepherds. And the women are the compassionate energy of love that allows mothers to oversee children without losing her shit. That's the same energy we're trying to usher back into the collective of the human family. That's feminism. That's not matriarchy. Feminism is the counter to, it's the tail side of the patriarchal coin to usurp the rightful place of women in the society. Feminism and matriarchy clash. They're not compatible. This is why you see a lot of sisters that joined the feminist movement. They left in disgust because it wasn't the matriarchal structure of the tribes. The men in the tribal structure of matriarchy are required to do men shit. In the feminist movement, the men are required to pretend to be women. Because on the patriarchal side of the coin, the patriarchs, all of them are boy lovers. They still Roman, still at the end of the day. So they want to usurp the matriarchy with the feminist movement, and people ain't even paid attention to half of the original feminists was drag queens. Teaching that doctrine to the women as if it's the doctrine of the matriarchy in order to confuse the genetic memory of the people. We know that the women can manage the household and that the men hold a specific function, but if the men is being systematically blocked from carrying a portion, then it makes it an off-balance system. And this is about how the feminists was able to undermine the rise of the matriarchs. But what he's talking about is total feminism. What you said right quick, because you said something that's real important to understand. It's not about being on different levels. It's about being on balance.
Right. I agree.
You remember when you go to Big Mama house for the barbecue, Big Mama is in the kitchen. She cooking collard greens, black-eyed peas, cornbread. But who outside barbecuing?
Daddy's outside at that grill.
That's Big Papa. That's Uncle Joe. That's Uncle Willie. They out there drinking and talking loud and barbecuing all around the barbecue while Big Mama in the kitchen cooking. That's balance. She can't cook and barbecue at the same time. That's balance. Right? The man is still needed. Who gonna grab that side of beef when we finna feed 250 people and drag it across the field and put it on the fire? That's Big Papa and them job.
That's right. Absolutely.
And while they out there doing that and chopping firewood for the barbecue, Mom and Auntie them in there wiping snotty noses, changing diapers, giving babies baths that they got dirty throughout the day. You know, got aunties in the kitchen, weaving like a well-organized machine. We carrying out our family functions to help the family according to our skill set. So we learn to be trained in the area where we can best support the structure of the family as being functional. We have to remember, they put it on the record already that one of their prime tools of oppression was to break up our family structure because we was too strong.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the tribes doing this. This is how we lived. Everybody had something that your skill set made you qualified, you the most qualified, you obligated to fulfill the function. That's why I'm right here doing this conversation right now. Not because I want to, because I hate social media with a passion. I don't care what I hate. My people come first. I can get over it. I can live through the struggle. I'm built for this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can get punched in the face, but I'm going to punch back.
Okay.
Right? I don't mind it. It's the problem don't come in from the enemy because I can whoop their ass. The problem come in is from the friendly fire. The ones that's supposed to be supporting our return to the land and reclaiming our shit, but they got confused as to their own self-identity and think they from somewhere else. A fictitious place that don't exist. They from ancient Morocco. The word ain't even 500 years old. So how you from ancient Morocco? The word not ancient. You don't have an ancient map that say Morocco. When you pull up a map of the Americas and say what was the lay of the land tribally before 1492, I don't see Morocco on that list of tribes. They all listed. The major tribes across the land are listed from Canada all the way. If you want to, you can go into South America with it. But none of them is called Morocco. None of them is called Moor. They got names like Choctaw, Chickasaw, right? The terms that we got from the oppressors, like the Mohawk, the Tomahawk, them weren't original names. Them was exonyms, right? But we used the name because we was in a transition across the land. So we didn't care what they called us as long as we got to the Gullah War. We didn't know that they was genociding us on paper with these terms and replacing us with foreigners to pretend to be us.
Okay.
Right? So they disassociate us with the slave narrative, which was strictly for educational purposes only. It was created in Notre Dame University, and the slave ship proves it as the blueprint for where the narrative was drawn up. It was all under the directive of the French. And that's why the Eiffel Tower sits where the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was drawn up. And wasn't no tribal chiefs over there. Not one. We had nothing to do with that shit. That had nothing to do with us. You don't see nobody named Chief nothing on there. You don't even see no L's and Bays on there. Or no Ali's signing that peace treaty. So how is that our history? That's the dogma. Morals and dogma. Albert Pike, remember? The moral people are going to be the righteous people, and the righteous people are the people that's in the position of the right. Even if you call them civilly mortis, meaning they dead by the law, we only dead to the Admiralty jurisdiction that claim we crashed our landmass into their ship, the good ship Plymouth. Y'all, they switched the name in the history books and called it Mayflower now. But it's the Plymouth. And Malcolm said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So when Lois and Clark is doing their survey, they trying to determine the extent of the wreckage from us crashing our landmass into their ship. So we all presumed dead and lost at sea. So they call us black. But it's also significant reference to those stealthy priests that wore the color commonly associated with the term. The Black Wolf Clan, the Black Eagle Clan, the Black Hawk Clan, the Blackfoot Clan, right? The Black Cougar Clan, which we know today is the Black Panther Clan. All these different clans are the clans that's fighting the actual conjure war of self-identity lost in a contract, a blood oath, then the secondary constitution that's kept in the George Washington Masonic Memorial was written in the blood of the Chief Crispus Attucks in order to keep us under the conjure spell. It's the same as the continuation of the ancient spell of Kingu that's put us in this Kali Yuga. When you break one, you break them all. It's cycles within cycles. And if you don't ever break out the cycles, you're stuck in an infinity loop, forever repeating the same bullshit over and over until you get it right. The exit from the infinity loop is where the pieces all meet in the middle on both sides. It's a